So I'm just going to go over a couple of errors that I've noticed since doing this, and I've just done it but didn't record, so I'm going to go over it one more time. So I just rendered this out and noticed that I've got some issues here, okay, on this there. Now I'm pretty sure that that was a normal map, and it was when I went through. So I'll just go through how I fix that up without having to necessarily go back and change everything and redo texturing and that kind of stuff. So it is an easy kind of fix on Substance Painter, so we can see now that it's fixed. But what I did initially to figure out where the issue was come down and I went through my maps. So I went normal map and I could see that the issue was in there. Ambient occlusion, the issue was also within my ambient occlusion map, but it wasn't, it is there in the curvature. You can still see that the error is there. So I'd need to rework my curvature map. So, and let's see, I've got position, no, thickness, no, and that's it. So I will need to redo my curvature. So I'll just do that quickly now. I'm just going to just cancel it and then go to Bake Mesh Maps. And I want my curvature done. Position, thickness, and world space normals were fine. And then I'll just hit bake. And it's still in there at the moment. So, okay, so I'll figure that out in just a moment. So we'll come back to that. But initially, that's a kind of how you can identify where the problems are. Then I come back to my Marmoset file, wherever you may be. Here we go. And I brought everything back in again, but I'm only looking at this area because this was the problem piece. So I've brought in this surface and this surface into my baker group only, because that's the only thing that I need to worry about baking. Then in my low poly, the issue was that my offset was too small. So if I bring that back down again, you can see that it starts to have those sort of errors there. And that's kind of what was happening before. So I just needed to increase with preview on until the cage was big enough to make sure that it was completely encasing my high poly so that I didn't get those bake issues. Then I baked it out, and just to show the file system, I baked it out as Radio Bake 3, and I did my albedo, so the color map for the color ID, my ambient occlusion, and normal once again. Then I brought that into my Photoshop file, so you can see here, and I just dragged it on top of that one and masked it out. So you can see if I hide it, that was before and that's after. So you can see that the error was there, and then I've fixed it by rebaking, making sure the cage was right. Then again, in the ambient occlusion, exactly the same thing, just overlaid it to get rid of those issues and then masked out that bit. So that's how I've kind of gone about that. And then when checking the other maps, they were okay. So that's how I'd fix that. Then in Substance Painter over here, come back to material. In my project, I just right click and reload, right click and reload. So I've reloaded those, and it's just aborted that for some reason, but it's probably because it hasn't changed. Then I just replaced it back into there as I would have done. Maybe this one, I don't need that to reload, but maybe I can just close. Can I delete it? I don't know if I can. Is it from here? Delete it from there, perhaps. So I'm going to delete all of those ones. I'm going to keep the ID because the ID stayed the same. Position and thickness. And then I'm going to try and just rebake those maps out. So world space normal, curvature, position and thickness. And then I'll just bake those out. And I think that worked then. I don't think I saw any issues. There we go. Yeah, so that's better. That's kind of worked doing it that way. So just rebaked it all. So now all my maps are nice and clean and okay, and I don't have those issues. And then I will go over how I've done the this here. That's just a kind of a test run more than anything. So I'll do this again, but more accurate to the reference.